Hello, everybody. I'm excited to share with you Hysolate Free for Sensitive Access, a new offering from Hysolate that can help you isolate all of the sensitive data, applications, access that you do on your machine from the more casual and more risky stuff that you do on your endpoint. For example, think about a banking website or maybe an IT system, maybe some kind of sensitive document that you access on your laptop. You do not want that to be running and accessible to malware that might be sitting on your machine or might get deployed on your machine, as well as you don't want yourself to make mistakes that will share those documents, data by mistake with others. So Hysolate can really help with all of that. And the Hysolate free version that I'm going to show now is free forever for anyone to use. We, of course, also have a paid enterprise version, which has a lot more capabilities, customizations, and so on. So let's get started. Once you install Hysolate on your endpoint, it takes 2-3 minutes in a reboot. You'll get this nice guide guiding you through Hysolate and explaining what it is. Of course, I'll jump through this real quick, but once Hysolate is deployed, you get this kind of new isolated workspace on your machine, which is a separate desktop, which is locked down, non-persistent, and protected against all kinds of threats. You can switch into the other environment with a keystroke. I'm actually going to press it now and switch into the Hysolate environment. This is where I'm going to do the sensitive stuff. And I can switch back with this key combination to my primary environment. So I can go back and forth this way, or I can even press a shortcut to jump between those two zones. I can do it in a variety of ways and switch back and forth, just as I will switch between different spaces or desktops on Windows. And of course, beyond that, I can do things like copy and paste. In the sensitive version of Hysolate, we do not want people to be copying and pasting sensitive content out of the VM. We do allow for text, so I can put some text here, I can copy it, and then I'm going to jump into the Hysolate environment and paste it, and the text will be allowed. But on the other hand, if I'm going to try to paste some information out of Hysolate, let's say I take this file over here, I copy it, and I try to paste it out on my desktop, you're going to see that transfer is not allowed when I'm trying to paste it this way, which is a file and not just text. Same goes for introducing malware into the sensitive environment. I'm going to take this keylogger and I'm going to try to paste it into my Hysolate environment. It will not be allowed by Hysolate because this is the way we configured it for the sensitive use case here. Of course, in the enterprise version, you can customize it to your liking. So this is how copy and paste works, as you would expect with Ctrl-C and Ctrl-V. And of course, it goes beyond that, and you can actually automatically redirect sensitive content into the Hysolate sensitive environment in a very simple way, as I'll show you in a second. So the way you do that, let's take my Chrome and start up after I installed Hysolate. And you can see that once you run Chrome or Edge with a Chrome extension that we add as part of the installation, you will be shown this kind of welcome page that suggests that you add sensitive websites into the Chrome extension. What that does is basically make sure that they will automatically be redirected to the sensitive VM when you visit them on your primary environment. So while on my primary environment, I can get into all kinds of risky websites, if I'm going to try to browse to aws.amazon.com, in this case, as I configured it, it will be automatically redirected into my isolated workspace. So I'm not touching anything. It's just automatically opening the AWS console in my sensitive environment, because I really don't want malware to get access to that. So I want it to be running on a completely separate operating system set up by Hysolate. And of course, vice versa, it also works. So if you try to visit something like Metasploit, which is risky on the sensitive environment, Hysolate will catch that and will redirect this back to the primary environment. So it's not rendered in the sensitive VM, but rather on the host environment on my primary OS. So this way, sensitive stuff stays in the sensitive VM and risky stuff goes to the host environment, to my primary environment. And of course, you can customize it in any way you'd like. So here we have a bunch of suggestions that you can just add out of the box when you install the extension, but you can put practically any website here. whatever your favorite bank, whatever data, web app you want, or anything else. And of course, remove them later if you don't use them anymore. Also, if you try to visit a website that is considered sensitive based on our built-in web classification engine, you'll see that Hysolate kind of pops up this suggestion for you saying city.com looks like a sensitive website, and you can just, in a click, make it sensitive. And then automatically, next time you visit it, and even right now, it gets redirected into the sensitive environment. So as a user, you don't need to remember to launch the websites in the right zone. Hysolate will just move them to the right place for you, so you don't make any mistakes. So this is kind of web redirection in action. And of course, it's an optional feature. You can turn it off if you don't like it. That's how you make it easy for users to switch back and forth. But of course, we want to also prevent mistakes of people by mistake downloading risky malware in here and so on. So by default, the sensitive VM does not get to have admin rights. So if you try to run as an administrator any application, you'll see that Windows pops up this kind of user access control, account control message box, but you cannot really escalate and become an admin. So you cannot really install malware in as an admin in the operating system running in the virtual machine. And even if you did, that virtual machine goes back to a clean state after you reboot. So you can't really infect the operating system of this sensitive machine. Furthermore, if your host environment gets infected with a keylogger, I'm going to infect myself with a keylogger here, a very visible one on the host OS, then whatever I'm typing in my host environment, in my primary OS, is going to be recorded. This is my primary OS, non-sensitive content. But if I'm going to jump into the virtual machine and open up Notepad over here and start typing super sensitive password and data, and this could be in any application in this VM, this does not get recorded by the keylogger on the host. It only records whatever is typed in primary environment. So this is an example of the isolation we put in place in action. It goes beyond just keylogging. It's also regarding screen capture. So if you're trying to capture the screen or share the screen in a Zoom call, and you switch into the sensitive VM, the other side will not be able to see your sensitive environment because Hysolate will blacken it and not make it visible. Furthermore, the disk of the virtual machine is encrypted, so malware cannot just take data out of that VM and extort you if it's ransomware. So that's the kind of security we put into place. And it's important to mention that the virtual machine that we set up is a lightweight virtual machine. It does not require a full OS image to be present on your endpoint. It's actually only containing the apps that we put into this, which is Chrome, Notepad, Edge, and nothing else. And while the host can have a bunch of applications in it, the guest OS is just an instant fork of Windows with just a bunch of applications that were pre-provisioned in the Hysolate VM. So you don't have all of the bloat. And on the other hand, you don't need to manage another operating system. Whenever your host OS is updated, the Hysolate VM will also be updated automatically based on the binaries of Windows on the host, while also making sure that only trusted code is executed there by Microsoft. So that's how the VM is set up. Finally, you have a control panel to configure almost everything you have in this VM, like restarting it or resetting it to a clean snapshot if you want, changing the power management of the VM, like automatically pausing it whenever it's not in use, and other options. You feel free to hang around and look at the options. So by the end of the day, you use Hysolate free for sensitive access to protect whatever you consider sensitive, be it data, applications, access that you do on your endpoint, in a way that protects against any kind of off-the-shelf malware, human error, ransomware, and so on. Thank you for watching this. Enjoy.